Hey everyone, this is Brad. I am coming to you with another IG Live. My guest tonight will be Logan from Divine Misfits. I'm excited about this. Just so you know, I am a life coach and I am currently helping people that are deconstructing from a religion as well as other things. You can find all of my information in my link that is located in my bio. And so go to that. It's Brad. It's lifecoachingwithbrad.org. And I will be more than happy to answer any questions you may have if you'd like some help. You also have a free anxiety worksheet on that website. And so take a look. Let me know what you think. And I'll be more than happy to chat with you. But now I see Logan has just joined. And so we're going to have her here in a moment. And I'm really excited about this conversation. She is incredibly honest and very brave with everything she's been through, and also just a bright beacon of kindness, if I can say that, of love. I've met a few people, obviously, in my life, and she has one of those faces just oozes happiness and warmth. It's probably the best way to say it. And so I'm excited for the opportunity to talk to her. I can see her mom's here. So hello there, Lou. And Rebecca is here. Thank you, Rebecca, as well. Just want to thank you guys for being here. She'll be on here in just a second. She's trying to log in as we speak. So, and there we go. Maybe. Hey, you
Hey!
did it.
Yay!
Yes.
We did it.
First time you've done that, right?
Yes,
You're a
yes.
master.
We'll see how the rest of it goes.
Well, I'm gonna think it's smooth sailing
Oh,
here,
so good.
right? As
Yes.
I just spend a lot of time boring them with my information,
I
and
know.
whatever have you. But I know that I want to thank our audience first and foremost because I know you both have some of you asked some questions, and we'll address those
hmm
questions as we go throughout. But let's take a moment, Logan, and why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody that's going to be watching this?
Hi, everyone. Like Brad said, my name is Logan. I am 24. I live in Los Angeles. I grew up in between California and Arkansas. Very different places.
Yeah.
Very different cultures, like everything. It was, I mean, like two sides of a coin. It's just totally different spaces. But now I'm back in California. I've been here for 2 years next week in Los Angeles. I run the Divine Misfits Instagram account and I host the Divine Misfits podcast. And it's like my little baby, my little joy. And I also am an office manager with an advertising agency out here in Los Angeles.
Very nice.
Yeah, got a lot happening, a lot going on.
LA once. My
What
brother
was,
used to live out there.
did you
Uh,
like it?
it's a different world.
It is, yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
used to. But it's just you're right. It's different. I can't imagine you going from Arkansas to California or
Yeah.
or near those because those are complete opposite ends of the spectrum. So,
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
well, well, I have been looking forward to having this conversation with you for a very long time. So let's
Same.
what do you say?
I am so excited for it. Let's get into it.
All
I'm
right.
ready. Yeah.
Um, as you know, I talk to a lot of people that are deconstructing
hmm
from religion, and everybody kind of lands somewhere different in the deconstruction process.
Yeah.
They end up, or it's a continual journey. Why don't you give us a little bit of your spiritual background? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and explain to us what's been going on with you, or your way you were brought up, and
Yeah. Gosh. Honestly, it's kind of been a full circle thing. So I grew up with a very universalist, but more agnostic kind of universalist raising. My mom taught me about God, but in terms of love and not in terms of like, you're sinful, so you need Jesus.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember being taught about Jesus, but not really. It was more God is love, so you love everyone. And of course, there were, some
Hmm.
bad theologies that I was learning from family, but for the most part, my mom just taught me about love. And so I grew up with that concept of God, with that concept of humanity. Just everyone is, I mean, we all bleed the same blood. Obviously, everyone has different life experiences, and that's going to impact the way that they move through the world. But we're all human and we're all just trying to figure it out. And so that's kind of where I'm at now, is agnostic leaning, but more like spiritualist, very into tarot, the universe, energy, all of that good stuff. So that's where I'm at now. Getting
Right.
here, getting back to this point was, gosh, it was really long and exhausting. And it started with a boy. I was agnostic. I moved from
Yeah.
California to Arkansas. I got put in a Catholic school and I officially was like, yeah, God is not for me. I want nothing to do with this. I don't like how judgy it is, how shameful this feels, and it just felt icky. And so I decided, okay, I'm like for sure agnostic. I don't really know much else, but I know there's something.
Hmm.
Then I met this boy whose dad was a pastor, and in order to date him, I said that I was a Christian. And then I started going to church with him. I started getting involved with his friends that I went to school with as well, that seemed to be really great people and are still good people. But that like slow few times going to church like
Yeah.
snagged me in there. I went on a mission trip. I got saved, which was like a whole other problem in itself, the terminology and mission trips.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and then I spent 10 years in Christianity. I served in the church, I led, I worked for my church for a long time whenever I was in college, but whenever I was in college was really whenever I got just heavy into Christianity, heavy into evangelical Christianity, and just like thinking that I had the message that people needed to hear. And it was more like I just wanted to be there for the people that didn't have a space within my church, because I didn't feel that I had a space in my church. And so I decided to do something about it. And it's really difficult whenever you stay involved in a toxic situation so that you can be the change, because
Uh,
at some point you just have to get out. And so I moved to Los Angeles, and that was kind of my out. I was like, okay, I'm leaving, so this is it, bye. And then fully embrace deconstructing, fully embrace exploring the questions that I had.
right.
And now here we are again, a couple years later,
Yeah.
pretty solid on where I stand and where I don't stand.
So I'm fascinated by some. First, I want to give kudos to your mom. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
same.
Kudos to your mom.
Hmm.
The fact that she let you explore different options and didn't impress
Yeah,
on you, I think is incredibly vital
yeah,
for any child growing up in that. So,
I totally agree.
well done, mom. Uh,
Shout out my mom.
out the mom, right? Uh, so that's awesome. Second of all, I think it's interesting that you joined for a boy.
Hmm.
Must have been one really smoking hot boy, right? Is that what they?
I was like an emo kid in high school. I was like, oh, I loved my screamo music and my Chemical Romance. And
Yeah.
so he was that the emo boy in the choir class that I was like, oh my gosh, he's so mysterious.
Uh,
No. 14-year-olds.
yeah. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Um, but we'll jump back into how you embrace
Yeah.
uh, tarot cards, and other things. Uh,
Yes.
just a minute. What was it though? Um, that was there a singular point that brought you to, hey, this Christian life is not for me? Was there an aha moment, as they call it,
Yeah.
or anything like that?
I think that there were quite a few aha moments that finally led to something that I was like, oh, I can't keep pushing this away. Like, I can't keep pushing these thoughts away, or these questions are just going, oh, blind faith.
Yeah.
because I was very inquisitive. I loved learning the Bible, like not just, okay, Matthew says this, but like, okay, what's the commentary on it? What's the historical context behind this? And so I wanted to learn, and I would ask questions and continuously get told, if we needed to know, God would have put it in the Bible. If we needed to know, then
Oh.
God would tell you.
Oh.
And one of the questions that I asked, and I was still very deep in my church, I hadn't at all accepted myself as a pansexual person. And I was like just very hidden and shameful in so many ways. But I was like, I'm just going to ask some of the questions that I have. And I asked once, what happens to kids that die before they know Jesus, or incredible people that never hear the name of Jesus or never are able to hear the name of Jesus? What happens to them? Like, if they're good humans doing good for other humans and being a good soul, why are they going to hell? And I asked, and my pastors and my friends, they all were just like, well, the Age of Atonement. And then also, we just don't know, and that's up to God, and we aren't supposed to know as human beings. We aren't supposed to know. We just trust that that's God. And I was like, what the fuck, what what do you mean? You are saying that we need to save souls, which again, problematic in itself.
Right. Right.
But then whenever people are curious about what happens to the souls that we can't reach, that we can, oh, Age of Accountability, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Age of Atonement was not it. Thank you. Um, but yeah, and so we were, they just kept telling me, like, you just need to trust. And that seems so problematic. Like, why are people going to go to hell if they're good humans? You don't have an answer for that when Jesus continually stands up for the people that are being attacked by society, being marginalized by society. It says right there by Jesus's character. I'm not a Christian, but I still think that the character of Jesus is gorgeous. But like, we saw that, and it's
Yeah.
not being replicated. And even with the questions or the answers that they're giving for questions, it's just like, hands off. We're just going to trust that God has it under control, and we don't need to know about that.
Yeah.
So I started asking and slowly pulling at things. And then honestly, whenever I moved to Los Angeles, I had the space. I wasn't surrounded by Christians everywhere. I wasn't surrounded by bigotry. And I lived in Arkansas. It was a very small town with a lot of really corrupted ways of thinking, a lot of corrupted ways of thinking. And it just, it was nice to get out and have the space to ask the questions. And then, of course, 2020 happened. And that was all of 2020, from the way that the churches handled COVID, from the way that they handled the Black Lives Matter protests, and even saying simply from stage that Black Lives mattered. For that for me, I was like, no, I can't go to churches. I can't be involved with a religion that won't even say the most basic thing, that life matters, not all
Right.
lives. That clearly was not covered whenever our systems were built, whenever our structures were built. So I started seeing this, and I started speaking up about my own beliefs and feelings on everything going on. And I was like, I think that this is it. I think that this is time for me to reckon with hell and figure out what I really believe. And that I did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because being a former pastor,
Mm-hmm.
okay, the idea that okay, there are questions that cannot be answered. Um, the just like you said, the hey, you just got to trust God.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things we can't know. Or the all-time favorite one of mine, which makes me throw up a little in my mouth, is, well, the original manuscripts were perfect. We don't
Mm-hmm.
have them, but they were perfect. So whatever we have now may be a little off, but it's still perfect.
Yeah.
That just got,
Yep.
that
Yep.
there, right?
Yeah.
Totally, I I totally get that frustration and not having those questions answered. I imagine though that when you came out, did you come out while you were at church as pansexual?
No. No.
Okay.
I didn't come out until January of this year, of
Okay.
2021.
And so
And I
what
left church in
that,
2019.
if I may ask, what brought you to that? Like what real
Yeah.
moment of the realization?
Oh, I mean, my gosh, I knew whenever I was a kid.
Okay.
I knew like whenever I was like 5, 6 years old, I was like, oh, that girl's cute. Oh, but so is that boy. Oh, and then I was just kind of hearing like, oh, do you have a boyfriend from family friends that mean well? It's like your aunt who's asking the question because it's cute and your kids.
Hmm.
And just very early on realized like, okay, yeah, I'm supposed to be with a boy. And then whenever I was in middle school, moved to Arkansas, went to a Catholic school, and I kissed a girl, and I was like, oh, yeah, no, I definitely am not fully straight. But again, because I was just in the Bible Belt at this point, I was very much inundated with the idea that bisexuality was confusion. I mean, just all of the biphobia that happens.
Right.
And I was just kind of like, okay, well, then maybe not. Like, maybe I'm just questioning things and I'm not actually bisexual, which was what I thought I was at the time. And still very valid. I just feel pansexual now encompasses more of what I feel, which is just
Sure.
everyone. Like,
Yeah.
give me your soul. Like, I want to share a soul, like a soul bond, like I want to have that connection. I don't care how anyone identifies.
Right.
And yeah, it was just something that I always knew and shoved down. And so again, moving to Los Angeles, speaking to people that didn't know me as a Christian, didn't know me as someone that was straight, didn't know me, any of that. They just were meeting me. And so I started introducing myself as bisexual. I started embracing my sexuality more and just getting more comfortable talking about it. And then finally, I told one of my best friends who was like, we got into an argument about being like, is being gay a sin whenever I was in church? Like, we got into a 4 hour argument about that. And she ended up being the first person that I came out to.
Oh,
And she still is my best friend. Like, we talk every single week. We prioritize each other. We're both going through deconstruction together. Like, she actually said she wasn't a Christian before I did,
hmm.
but it was like I was slowly planting seeds because I was still affirming even though I wasn't out whenever I was in the church. So everyone knew that I was a safe space. They knew that I was affirming. I had multiple
Yeah.
people, thank God, or whatever this is, that I was there for some
Yeah.
people to come out to me, but I didn't feel safe enough to come out to myself or to anyone else until last year, until I was away from Arkansas and away from the judgment and the expectations and the like preconceived notions of who I was. It was liberating.
Well, that's awesome. But I have to tell you that something stood out to me in what you said right there, and now I've got that song in my head. I kissed a girl, and I think I liked it.
Honestly, I would listen to that song and I'm like, no, I'm not gay. I'm not gay. I'm not. And I'm like, no, I am. I
Uh,
am. I am.
sorry, just song just
Oh, it's a great song.
yeah, boom, right there.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, you came out. Obviously, you've walked out of the church. You
Hmm.
have embraced yourself,
Hmm.
which
Yeah.
is incredibly important, and
Hmm.
imagine really freeing at the same time.
Yes.
How did that? Um, how did that impact your family?
I mean, my mom is watching the live right now. She is very supportive. I'm so grateful for my mom, and I know that
Okay,
I'm one of the lucky ones.
let me interrupt you real quick.
Yeah.
I just want to tell her mom that when we had our conversation earlier this week, you said the same thing. So you're
Yeah.
not on the video. You said the same thing about how supportive your mom was. So
Yeah. Yeah.
go on. Okay. So
She she's very like I'm getting emotional. We've had a very beautiful growth in our relationship. And I think it's because I left Christianity because she wasn't a church Christian. She wasn't really like a how society views Christians. She was just loving. She didn't really give a shit. She was like, God is everything. Every God is God, but not God. So everything is love, just like be a good human.
right.
And I was not. And so me deconstructing, I think, opened up our relationship to actually like have the hard conversations without me getting aggressive or me wanting to quote the Bible at her. And we realized like, oh, we actually see things pretty much the same way. And we realized like that there was just a lot of support that we hadn't communicated before that. So thankfully, my mom and I do have an incredible relationship. And again, I'm so grateful for that. The rest of my family, I honestly didn't really speak to them before. I don't really speak to them now. They don't approve. I know that I'm not a Christian, but I think that they're like okay-ish that I'm pansexual. But again, I don't really know. I don't I don't want to say that I don't care because I do love my family, but I love who I am and I love who I'm becoming more than I care about their opinions. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Where do they live, like in Arkansas or
They're in
LA?
California. They're a few hours north of me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The last time that I saw them in person was whenever I came out.
How did that go?
Oh, so awkward. So
Oh,
awkward. So bad. I came out to my cousin and he said, okay. And then I said that I wasn't a Christian. So I just really rolled it all out.
yeah, you threw the whole thing.
Yeah, I was like, okay, we're gonna drop a bomb. Okay, we're just dropping it all. And then he just goes, okay, well, I am. And I said,
Oh,
okay. And we parted ways. We didn't say anything else. It was just kind of an awkward little, great, good night.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
thanks for
yeah,
sharing.
yeah. So I think that they are there. I don't know if they fully support me, but I am incredibly grateful to have people in my life that do fully support me. And so that has made it a lot easier to lose family relationships or like have rockier family relationships and even friendships because I really do have an incredible support system.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
so you, navigating all that and coming out, that's a
yeah.
huge step. It's a very mature step. And I'm happy
Thank you.
that you're comfortable with who you are, and I'm happy you have
Hmm.
family support because obviously
Hmm.
there are a lot of people that don't
Yeah,
hear those stories all the time.
yeah.
So you coming out of that and then embracing, and this is what's interesting, you still embrace spirituality
Hmm.
out of the deconstruction process. Um, what explain a little bit where you landed with that in spirituality and what
Yeah.
you focus on right now.
Yeah, man, I feel like I landed in a place where the universe is just completely open. It feels like I'm in a space where anything is possible because I don't know anything. I am very open to not knowing. I'm very comfortable with not knowing. I don't have a need to have answers right now. Um, and I think that has just led to a lot of beautiful freedom. But whenever I first started to deconstruct last year, like really deconstruct, really ask the questions and get to a space where I was, you know, literally reckoning with if I believe in hell or not and what sin is, and really learning about why it was taught in the way that it was taught versus what it actually is.
Right.
Um, so while I was going through that, I was also seeing a spiritual healer. And so I was going to someone who was recommending me books that talk about Jesus as being an ascended master versus Lord and Savior.
All right. Now,
And
ascended master. What is that? What can you break that down for what that means?
a little bit, I will give the my healer can explain it so much better. Her Instagram is at the real Faith Strang. She's incredible and she has videos on her page that talk a bit more about it. But essentially, it's Mother Teresa, Buddha, ascended masters are people that are so in tune with God, spirit, source, the universe, that they're able to take the wisdom and knowledge that they learn from their years of studying and learning and understanding different cultures and religions and ways of thinking. They're able to translate that and put it into a way that can help other people feel in tune with the divine, essentially.
Okay. All right.
So I am very much into the divine. I believe in energy. I believe in just putting out the energy that you want to receive back. And energy work is a very big thing for me, just like managing your energy whenever you're having hard conversations with your family, making sure that you're keeping yourself grounded and stable. So I'm like into crystals and tarot and and
Yeah.
all of that. Um, yeah, I just see the divine as everything. Everything is divine. I am divine. You are divine for simply existing as humans. I don't think necessarily a creator had to create all of the universe, but I believe that's a possibility. Um, but yeah, I think everyone is divine and everyone has a piece of the universe's energy existing within them. And to me, I think that's like insanely amazing.
Well, I think there's also some science to back that up
Yeah,
as
yeah. Quantum physics.
yes,
That'll teach you.
it blows your mind.
Yeah. And I think for me, getting outside of this idea that I had to give everything to God, that I had to give glory to God, that I had to, when bad things happen, that I had to give it to God. Like how I know also your daughters did a reel about this. Like, how do you give it to God? I'm trying to give it to God and nothing's going anywhere. I'm still stuck with these anxious feelings, with this depression, with this confusion, with all of these nasty emotions sometimes. I'm trying to give it.
Yeah,
And now it's so much different in the way that I approach that. It's more of I am in control. I am the divine. I have the power. So I can take my power back and I can choose to focus on the good around this. And I can choose to feel the emotions that come up and sit with them and be with them and fully let myself embrace all of the frustration and anger. It's not bad or wrong. Any feeling that comes up is not inherently wrong or evil. It's what you do next with them.
yeah,
And so I think now I'm just in a space where I can very comfortably say, I don't know what God is. I don't know what exactly happens when we die, but I know that I want to create a life now that is something that I love, and I want to know that I am standing in my power every single day and that I am giving other people power just by living my life. Like,
yeah,
and I think we all do that. That's the energy that we emit to each other. Whenever you pass someone and they smile at you, you get some of that good energy that they gave you. If you pass someone and they look at you and they flip you off, you're going to get that negative energy, you know? And so I think
yeah,
for me, I just choose to focus on now instead of what comes next.
yeah. And
Yeah.
a very different mindset, obviously, than religion, because a lot of
Yeah.
the that I've worked with or believers, other religions, it's all about the afterlife, you
Yeah.
know, kind of like a
Yeah.
war per
Yeah.
se. And you have a lot of people that don't live their life
Hmm.
when that takes place. They just are continually looking for the afterlife.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and I think that we've seen that a lot with pretty much the last like 5 years since I don't want to get like too crazy political, but you know, we did see when Trump was elected, we saw Christians when bad things would happen go, oh, but humans are bad, but the afterlife, Jesus is going to be so good. Like, just wait for eternity with God
uh,
while they're electing an official that is oppressing people now here. And so it's like you continuously say, like, oh, the afterlife is going to be so great. The afterlife in heaven, we're all going to be united. We're all going to be one. It's all going to be this big magical party place. When here, there's abuse happening, there's pain happening, there's oppression happening, there is death happening constantly that could actually be solved by like putting people into place and learning politics and learning the things that like built our systems and what we need to do to dismantle those systems. There's none of that happening within the Christian spaces. It's just, oh, when we die, then we'll be in heaven, then things will be good.
yeah, they're
That's
more
when it's worth it.
on depression.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
facing at this
Yeah.
point. I
Hmm.
see that we've got a comment that's exactly giving it to God was me ignoring my mental health, inner voice, and my red flags.
Hmm.
So I totally
Yeah.
uh, get that. I do want to call attention because you did get some questions.
Yeah.
Uh, and the first one, I'll start off with just a girl pastor.
Hmm.
Asks, how do you guys deal with the pain of rejection for those that were once your friends?
Yeah. I
I'll
mean, you got to feel
first.
it. Yeah, it's such a good question
It is.
because it's hard. Grieving a friendship is hard because grief isn't just when someone dies.
Hmm.
It's potentially constantly happening. You know, if you lose a job, if you lose a friend, and especially when it's like a friend that you have built your beliefs with, a
Hmm.
friend that you have gone to in some of your hardest moments,
Yeah.
a friend that like celebrated you in your cheerful moments. That bond is really hard to lose. And I think like actually letting yourself grieve the friendship is the only way to get to a point where you can go, at least where I'm at now, because I have sadly lost friends. I have lost people that totally changed my life for the better because I left the church or because I changed my views. And I don't want to be friends with someone that isn't LGBTQ affirming, that isn't accepting and loving of every person. And right now, I'm at a place where I can say, I love what our friendship was. I love the moments that we had. And I love that we got to experience our life, that point of our life together. But now we are at different spots and growing in different directions. And that's not a bad thing. It's just something to grieve and something to process and get past.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. For me, I think the struggle and the grieving that took place was because it feels like, and it could be, that the only thing that really held it together then was religion. That they really didn't like
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that idea that says, "Hey, my views on religion have changed. That doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean I'm a different person.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't mean
Yes.
suddenly I'm a serial killer or something.
Yes.
Serial killers are Christians, but anyways, um, and so there's that
Yeah.
this. I mean, Taysom, I'm just being very open and honest here.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that my mom
Yeah.
hasn't talked to me in months because of when I said what I said
God.
coming out, and it's just like I'm still the same kid, if you want to put it that way. I'm still the same.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My views on life or afterlife or whatever have you have changed,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean I'm dirt. But then again, that's kind of what you've taught,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I totally agree. The grieving part, you have to allow yourself to be incredibly sad and
Mm-hmm.
okay, um,
Yeah.
but then you do have to look and say, I like who I am.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah. I
correction.
am I am worth the love
Yes,
as I am without
yeah,
the views. Like
exactly.
as a human, we are worth that love. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's difficult for fundamentalist Christians to
Mm-hmm.
because it is because they've been taught their whole life that there's nothing good in them except what Jesus does through them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, in essence, you are dirt, and the only value you have is what Jesus does in your life or puts in you. So
Yeah.
it's hard to rewire the brain
Mm-hmm.
of deconstructing uh, fundamentalists.
Yes. Yes. And it's whenever you are a fundamentalist, it's like because all it really is just a mindset change. It's just shifting the way that you perceive something, shifting the way that you take in information. Shifting one small thing can open up so much. And it's so hard with fundamentalism because it's like you could be so close if you listened, because hearing your story, listening to it, it's your story, it's your truth, it's your feelings, it's what has shaped you. And it's hard whenever someone isn't listening to that, because it's like if you just heard me, if you listened to what I was actually saying and heard what I was saying, then we wouldn't even be having this conversation because you could see me.
Yeah,
And with fundamentalism, it takes that away and just goes, if you don't go by the rule book, if you don't fit these T's, if you can't do this in the way that I want you to do this, then you're wrong. And it's like, oh, but if you just listened, if you literally just listened, so much could open up to you.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. Yeah. I don't even. I mean, I understand the
Hmm.
struggle mentally to get past.
Yeah.
Totally understand that.
Yeah.
Um, because at one point or another, I had that kind of mentality, but I don't know, it just takes a special kind of brainwashing
Yeah.
to have friendships and family relationships destroyed over a shift in beliefs.
Yeah.
You know, it just takes something very, lack of a better word.
Hmm.
So, okay,
Yeah.
uh,
Yes.
this one comes from someone that you may not know at all. It says,
Yes.
ask my Logie. So I have no idea who that is. If her deconstructing will need to be let go as she progresses.
Hmm.
Hmm. I don't know who that could have been, but now.
um, yeah. I mean, yes and no. I feel like, and I know you can also weigh in on this. Like, I would love to hear your thoughts on that as well. Yes and no. I feel like there's always going to be more to deconstruct. There's always going to be another thought that pops into your head and you go, "Huh, why do I believe that? Why does the system believe that? Why does, like there's going to be things." It was my mom's question.
Yeah, right.
um but yeah, it's there's always going to be more. There's always going to be something to deconstruct. Another belief system, another ideal that you once had, another statement that gets said years down the road. So, yes, I always want to be learning and growing. And I think in that sense, I will always be deconstructing. There's always going to be something else to learn, which typically takes unlearning another thought that you once had. That's what's hard.
And I agree. I think we are, hopefully, if we're learning, we're always in the process of
Mhm.
deconstructing something. I
Yeah.
think the shift is that hopefully the anger and
Yeah.
the bitterness and everything else that
Mhm.
you had before, because whether you felt lied to or you
Yeah.
robbed of something because of purity culture or a long list,
Yeah. Yeah.
hopefully you're able to make peace with that
Hmm. Yeah.
moving forward. So deconstruction is not really as much a painful thing as much as
Hmm.
a learning process.
Yes. Yes. And I think too, it's deconstruction can become such an identity that you kind of go, oh, well, now that I'm kind of solid on what I do and don't believe, where do I go next? Because you've kind of like built that. And I think it's important to build up yourself as well as like tearing down your beliefs, like making sure that you're bringing gratitude into your daily practices, making sure that you're bringing like self love into your daily practices while you're also asking these big existential questions. But
Right.
yeah, at some point, they kind of shift and you're giving yourself more love and less existential. Oh my God, what's going on with my life? Like Bo Burnham inside special. Like there, it's less of that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think at some point, at least for me, it's become way less. What is hell? Like it's not the big questions anymore.
Right.
It's the smaller things. It's the random things that come up. It's not the big like foundations of my faith anymore. So deconstruction in the big sense, like you were saying too, like that, no, learning, yes.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So knowing what you've been through, what advice would you give somebody that's going through deconstruction?
Embrace it all.
Mm.
I think there's so many things I could say. Embrace yourself. Embrace yourself.
Mm.
Let yourself ask the questions. Let yourself think the thoughts, write them down, tell them to safe people, get a therapist, a life coach, someone that is licensed in handling things like this. Get yourself someone that you trust, but learn to trust yourself as well. I think letting yourself ask the questions in a safe space for you, whether or not you ask those to other people or share that, I think it builds up a trust within yourself. And I think when you're deconstructing, it feels like everything that you've ever known is falling. It's like you're literally falling down the rabbit hole and everything else is falling around you and you have no idea which way's up. It's confusing, it's isolating. And I think to be able to kind of ground yourself during that process, just by saying, I trust myself, I am not sinful. And gosh, that is like a whole other process to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even if it's lying to yourself saying it at first, at some point you will believe it. Like that's what happened with me. At some point, I just started believing it because I was saying it so frequently. And it's just building that trust. And oh my gosh, there's so much. Try everything. Try the tarot, try the crystals, try the things that you were told were evil. Go to all of the Halloween events, go to haunted houses, do the things that you weren't allowed to do when you were a kid, do the things that you weren't allowed to do whenever you were in college, and like just do it all. Think about it all. Think about the universe. Ask the big questions. I think as much as you can take in to shift perspectives, oh gosh, the more growth that you'll have. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. And what I'd like to even add to that is you
Hmm.
talk about how overwhelming it is to go through deconstruction.
Yeah.
And what I encourage people to do that I do coaching with or anything like that is, hey, let's take one thing at a time. Don't blow it all up
Mm.
at the same time
Yeah. Yeah.
and wonder what to do then. And because
Yeah.
you're gonna be totally like under the rubble.
Hmm.
You're gonna feel that way. So take it one time, and you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater if you don't want to.
Hmm. Yeah.
Oh, just like I know you and I were talking, about Jesus and what another view on Jesus. Okay, I've met lots of people that still love Jesus, but don't love
Hmm.
or the system that's put in place.
Yeah.
Teachings, and so there's always different ways to go about it. But I agree with you wholeheartedly that hey, do it for you.
Yeah.
Yourself the questions that have
Yes.
them to explore those questions.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
you don't have to follow, there's no certain rule book of how you're supposed to deconstruct.
Yes.
It's not there. And
Yeah.
so, and I love the fact you say, hey, go to a therapist or a life coach, somebody you trust.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
And trusting them and do research before you go to a therapist. Like,
Hmm.
I want you to know, I go to a therapist every other week. It
Hmm.
helps grounded, helps keep me focused.
Yep.
We talk through things. We talk through my job. We talk through all these kinds of things, right? And I'm not ashamed to admit that because I think that it really helps me stay awakened to things instead of
Hmm.
shutting the door on things.
Yeah.
But I did research. I wanted to go to a therapist that had no ties to the church, personally.
Yep. Yeah.
So somebody that would not push me a certain way, one direction or the other.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so I did that kind of research so that I didn't get
Hmm.
say, okay, you just need to come back to God.
Yeah.
Kind
And
of,
if they do, it's okay to fire your therapist.
I have before.
Yeah.
It's
Like, no, no,
gonna work.
no. It is okay to fire your therapist.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Those were two of our questions. What I want to do now is I really want to know, hey, what does Logan have coming up? What is she working on? What can we do?
Yeah.
How can we support you?
Oh my
Talk
gosh.
to
So many things bouncing around in here. So the podcast, the Divine Misfits podcast, will be back next Tuesday on the 5th.
me.
And I'm so excited for that. We're kicking it off with I guess this is a little like inside preview. We're kicking it off with Cult Spirit and Say What I Wanna.
Oh, very
I
cool.
got to interview them and hear their stories, and I am so excited to get those out. So that's going to be coming soon. And then also, I am going to be starting a little thing on Mondays called Misfit Mondays. And I will be sharing everyone else's stories. I will be sharing people's anonymous stories that they submit through the link in my bio. So if anyone happens to be watching this and you want to talk about your church hurt, your church whatever, and you don't want to tell anyone who you are, there's a totally anonymous space to do that if you want to in my bio. Just a little shameless plug. And yeah, gosh, I want to keep building community with the people here because everyone's stories are so inspiring, and just getting to connect with such incredible people. And like you said, we're all in completely different spaces. We're landing in different areas. We're in the middle of different areas. We're deconstructing things. Other people that have been like deconstructed for 10, 15 years are in this space. And the community here is just, it's incredible. And I want to keep building that as much as I can in my little corner of the world. So yeah, just a lot of fun and
Well,
community going on.
well, I'm excited. I'm excited that podcast is coming back.
Me too.
Those two are fabulous.
Oh my gosh, they're incredible.
They're great people, and
They're
I
so
love
incredible.
them well.
Yeah.
For all those that are watching or are going to watch the replay, if you are not following Logan, the Divine Misfits, there's a little arrow in the top that you can touch. It pulls down, and you can immediately follow her. It is worth the follow. I can tell you that.
Oh, thank you.
Incredible information.
That's so sweet.
So, thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Loved it. I feel like I could talk to you all day.
Same.
So, I mean, it was great. And just love the wisdom that you pour out.
Oh, thank you.
I may even have you do it
Same.
for me.
Oh my gosh, yes. One day.
I've never had one, so this would be.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
One day. That's currently in the works up here.
Okay.
We're working on some potential tarot happening on the channel. We're getting there. Might do a little collaboration with some people.
Nice.
Gotta
Good.
love the tarot. We'll do it. We'll connect. We'll do tarot. It'll be a whole thing.
Great. It'll be
Thank you
great.
so much for having me on this. This was
Thank
incredible,
you
and I am honored to be in this space with your wisdom as well. So thank you.
very much. And
Yeah.
thank you, everybody that chimed in and everything.
Yes.
We appreciate you very much and love you, and look forward to talking to you in the near future.
Same. Bye,
All right.
Brad. Bye, everyone.
You have a wonderful evening.
You too. Bye.